Today's tech news moves fast, but understanding it shouldn't be hard. That's why Snarful Solutions Group brings you Connecting the Dots, where we break down what's happening in tech and why it matters to you. Now, let's dive in with your hosts.
Welcome to Connecting the Dots. I'm Alex.
And I'm Morgan.
Happy Monday, everybody. Today is March 9th, 2026. And we are really thrilled you're starting your week with us here in Sacramento.
Absolutely.
We have a pretty packed broadcast for you today, but before we open up the tech dossier, let's get you calibrated on the physical and financial world right outside your window.
Yeah, taking a look at the national weather, we have a pretty stark divide today. If you're operating in the central and southern high plains, please be on high alert. We're tracking critical fire weather conditions out there.
Yeah, fueled by that really dangerous combination of gusty winds and incredibly low relative humidity.
Exactly. And on the flip side, the Mid-South region and the central Gulf states are dealing with severe thunderstorms and some pretty heavy run systems moving through the area today.
The broader national picture, though, is showing some anomalous warmth. I mean, we are tracking above average temperatures across a massive swath of the country.
Right, with multiple daily record-tying or even outright record-breaking highs on the board for this afternoon.
Yeah. Locally, though, Sacramento is sitting in just a perfect pocket of weather sunny with a high of 76 degrees Fahrenheit.
Honestly, it's hard to complain about that local forecast.
Definitely.
Moving over to the financial markets, the traditional exchanges took a noticeable hit to start the week.
Yeah, they did.
The Dow closed down 561.37 points, which represents a 1.19% drop. And the S&P 500 tracked a pretty similar trajectory, shedding 46.40 points, or 0.69%.
But the crypto markets are telling a completely inverse story this morning.
Right.
Bitcoin saw this massive, really aggressive surge, up a strong 3,063.25 points.
Wow.
Yeah, that 4.64% jump brings it to a close at 69,038.95. So the divergence between institutional equities and decentralized assets is, well, certainly something to monitor this week.
Definitely. And, managing that kind of market volatility while keeping your focus sharp requires optimal fueling.
Which perfectly tees up our morning sponsor, Strong Coffee.
Yeah.
You already know the baseline routine of a morning brew, but standard caffeine, it often leads to that midday crash. Strong Coffee completely re-engineers that ritual.
It really does.
It's a premium instant coffee that delivers the complex flavor profile of a traditional brew, but it's formulated with 15 grams of protein, MCTs, and adaptogens like ashwagandha.
Yeah, the inclusion of the ashwagandha and MCTs is the real differentiator there. It modulates the absorption, so you get this clean, sustained energy and cognitive clarity without those typical nervous system jitters. It's essentially a functional upgrade to your baseline morning routine.
Absolutely. And you can leverage a great deal right now by using the promo code SNARFUL to get 20% off your entire purchase at strongcoffeecompany.com.
That's promo code SNARFUL at checkout.
All right, let's open up this Snarful Tech article report, what we call the Morning Star here.
Yes, the Morning Star.
Looking at the data we've pulled for you today, there is a distinct, I'd say inescapable through line. We are crossing a major threshold in artificial intelligence.
Yeah, we really are.
The paradigm of the conversational chatbot, a system that just waits patiently for your prompt, is basically obsolete.
Right.
We are moving decisively into the era of autonomous agents and physical hardware that execute complex, multi-day workflows entirely independently.
Yeah. The shift from reactive assistance to proactive execution is definitely the defining trend of 2026. And our first story maps the extreme edge of this transition in the software engineering space.
Let's look at the baseline expectation for human engineers for a second.
Okay.
If a development team spent an entire week building a web browser and the final product was buggy and only partially functional, it would be a complete non-event.
Nobody would care at all.
Right. But last week, Michael Truell, the CEO of the AI coding startup Cursor, posted on X that a web browser was built from scratch in 7 days and, quote, kind of works.
Yeah.
That post instantly captured over 6 million views and just fundamentally shook the developer community.
And the friction here isn't the quality of the browser itself, it's the architecture of the team that built it. Because there were 0 human engineers involved.
None.
This was constructed by a swarm of AI agents powered by OpenAI's GPT 5.2, and they were running continuously without human intervention for 168 hours.
Which is wild. The timescale is what makes this a staggering breakthrough.
Yeah.
If you track the historical context window and the attention span of these foundational models, early iterations would they'd drift or hallucinate after just a few sequential prompts.
Right. They'd completely lose the thread.
Exactly. And then a few seconds of focus turned into minutes. And recently we've seen agents maintain coherence for maybe a few hours.
Right.
But sustaining a complex, multi-tiered software development loop for a full week without the system collapsing into some hallucination cascade, that's unprecedented.
It is. And to pull that off, Cursor couldn't just use a single instance of a language model. Single agents are optimized for discrete, really granular tasks like refactoring a single function or maybe drafting an API call. But building a browser requires state management, architectural planning, and resolving literally thousands of dependency conflicts.
Yeah, it's huge.
So Cursor engineered an agentic orchestra, basically. They compartmentalize the model into distinct interacting personas.
It operates a lot like a digital skunk works.
Yeah.
You have the planner agents mapping out the overarching architecture and breaking the build into manageable repositories. Then they hand off to the worker agents.
Right, the ones who actually synthesize the millions of lines of code.
Exactly. But the really critical piece here is the judge agents.
Oh, absolutely.
They operate with an entirely different system prompt that is purely designed to audit the workers. So they identify logic flaws and they force regressions back down the chain for fixing.
And Jonas Snell, an engineer at Cursor, contextualized this perfectly. He openly admitted that the browser itself is raw. I mean, nobody is uninstalling Chrome to use this thing today.
No, definitely not.
But as a proof of concept, it obliterates our previous assumptions about model degradation. Bill Chen over at OpenAI monitors these exact types of stress tests. And he pointed out that autonomous task duration is actually the purest metric we have right now for generalized intelligence.
That makes sense.
Right. The longer a model can operate without human steering, the closer we get to true autonomous capability.
Which brings up a really fascinating timeline shift for us to consider. Simon Willison, who is a highly respected independent AI researcher, he went on record recently predicting that an AI-generated browser was a realistic milestone for the year 2029.
And Cursor just collapsed that timeline by 3 years.
Yeah. Even Willison publicly expressed shock at the acceleration.
What you're seeing here is just a textbook demonstration of capabilities overhang.
Right.
The models sitting behind the API walls over at OpenAI and Anthropic, they possess massive latent reasoning abilities that just aren't exposed in a standard chat interface. The raw intelligence is there, but it requires sophisticated scaffolding like Cursor's orchestra framework and massive drops in compute costs to actually unlock that reasoning at scale.
Right. But let's bring this back to reality for a moment for the folks listening.
Yeah, good idea.
If you're managing an engineering team today, you cannot simply fire up an AI swarm to build your enterprise software platform.
Yo.
The economics of this specific experiment are completely unviable for standard business operations. Running hundreds of GPT 5.2 agents concurrently, trading millions of tokens back and forth for 7 days, it generates a catastrophic cloud computing bill.
It really does. The compute cost is the immediate bottleneck, but honestly, the structural barrier is security.
Oh, yeah.
When an autonomous system generates millions of lines of code without human review, the attack surface expands exponentially. You're looking at undocumented dependencies, unpatched vulnerabilities, and potential data leaks embedded deep within the architecture.
Yeah.
Deploying this in a zero-trust enterprise environment requires an entirely new framework for cryptographic auditing that, frankly, simply doesn't exist yet.
Exactly. Now, the software layer is evolving rapidly, but the most profound impacts happen when code actually intersects with the physical world.
Right.
And our second story tracks this exact transition. Nvidia and ABB have just formalized a massive new partnership that takes these autonomous capabilities and embeds them into physical robotics.
This partnership solves the single biggest friction point in industrial automation, which is the sim-to-real gap.
Yeah, sim-to-real gap.
Right. ABB is a titan in industrial robotics. They manufacture the arms that assemble everything from automotive chassis to microchips. But historically, programming those arms requires painstaking, really deterministic engineering. Every waypoint, every kinematic arc has to be coded by a human.
Right.
Now, they're integrating their robot training software directly into NVIDIA's Omniverse.
And for those who don't know, Omniverse isn't just a basic 3D modeling tool. It is a hyper-realistic, physics-accurate simulation engine. It computes mass, gravity, friction, and material tolerances flawlessly. So the strategy here is to take the foundational AI brain that will eventually power an ABB robot and drop it into Omniverse to train via reinforcement learning.
The acceleration this provides is just difficult to overstate.
It is.
In the physical world, a robot arm attempting to learn a complex assembly task through trial and error might take months, and you're risking hardware damage with every single mistake.
Yeah, breaking very expensive parts.
Exactly. But inside Omniverse, time is synthetic. The AI can execute millions of iterations of assembling a car engine, utilizing domain randomization to vary the lighting, the weight of the parts, and the friction of the joints.
Right.
It basically learns how to handle infinite edge cases in hours instead of months.
Right. And then you take that fully matured, highly capable neural network and you push it down to the physical hardware on the factory floor.
Yeah.
They're calling this industrial-grade physical AI at scale. And Foxconn is already running trials with this exact pipeline.
And when Foxconn moves on a technology, the entire global supply chain pays attention.
Absolutely they do.
This signals a fundamental rewiring of manufacturing agility. If a company redesigns a smartphone, they don't have to spend 6 months retooling and reprogramming the robotic assembly line.
Right.
The digital twin of the factory learns the new process in simulation overnight, and the physical robots are updated via an over-the-air patch the very next morning.
It's incredible. Hardware iteration begins to operate at the speed of software deployment.
Exactly.
So we have AI swarms writing software and AI brains driving factory floors.
Yeah.
But the application that will directly impact almost everyone tuning in right now is happening at the standard corporate desktop.
Yes.
Microsoft just announced an aggressive update to their ecosystem that fundamentally alters the nature of knowledge work.
Right. They're launching Copilot Cowork, which deeply integrates Anthropic's Claude Cowork technology directly into the Microsoft 365 environment. And the rollout is moving incredibly fast. It's currently in research preview, it's hitting the Frontier program by late March, and the broader Agent 365 platform reaches general availability on May 1st.
May 1st.
Yeah. To give you a sense of scale, Microsoft already has over 500,000 custom agents hosted on that platform.
And Charles Lamanna, Microsoft's president of business apps, framed this transition perfectly. He stated, and this is a quote, "Cowork is the new chat."
Yeah.
This is the death of the babysitting era of AI, where you prompt a model, review its output, tweak the prompt, and then manually paste the result into an email.
Right.
Lamanna calls this the fire and forget model.
The engine making fire and forget possible is called Work IQ. Standard AI models rely on retrieval augmented generation. They essentially fetch a document and summarize it. But Work IQ operates differently. It functions as an action engine with read-write permissions across your entire organizational graph.
Right.
It actually understands the semantic relationships between your emails, your calendar, your team hierarchy, and your secure files.
Microsoft actually outlined 4 specific scenarios that demonstrate how aggressive this integration really is.
Yeah, let's go through them.
Let's look at calendar management first. Anyone managing a complex schedule knows the friction of a chaotic inbox. Under Cowork, the AI doesn't just suggest times, it actively triages your week.
Right.
By analyzing your historical communications and current project deadlines, it autonomously declines low-priority meetings, negotiates alternative times for conflicts, and locks in focus blocks.
It's amazing.
Lamanna noted this feature alone eliminated 40 minutes of manual scheduling overhead for him and his assistant in a single pass.
And, giving an AI right access to decline meetings on your behalf requires a massive leap of trust.
Oh, absolutely.
But the workflow efficiencies are undeniable.
Yeah.
The second scenario focuses on meeting preparation. Imagine you have a high-stakes client pitch on Thursday. You simply task Cowork with prepping the team. It crawls your secure internal network, pulls the relevant historical context from past emails and shared drives, and autonomously generates a comprehensive briefing document, a financial analysis, and a client-ready presentation deck.
Wow.
It even schedules the internal prep sync and drafts the agenda for you.
That brings us to the third scenario, which moves into deep analytical research. If you need a rapid competitive analysis, Cowork bypasses standard web searches. It pulls raw SEC filings, extracts most recent earnings data, and synthesizes that financial intelligence into a fully formatted, accurately labeled Excel workbook.
Right.
And then it tops that off with a fully cited executive summary, perfectly formatted for internal distribution.
And then the fourth scenario ties all these capabilities into operational execution launch planning.
Yeah.
You feed Cowork the strategic intent for a new product. It independently builds the competitive matrix, drafts the core value proposition, generates the pitch deck, and most importantly, it outlines the critical milestones and assigns specific tasks to your team members based on their historical workloads.
That's huge.
Right. It bridges the gap between high-level strategy and granular project management.
But you cannot look at these capabilities without addressing the immense human impact. On paper, this is the ultimate productivity multiplier.
Right.
But the macroeconomic reaction tells a completely different story. Wall Street tech stocks have experienced recent volatility, specifically because institutional investors are questioning the future value of human knowledge workers in this paradigm.
And that anxiety is entirely justified when you look at the labor market. We're currently tracking AI-centric layoffs at major tech organizations like Amazon and Block.
Yeah.
If an agentic system can conduct the financial research, generate the client deck, and project manage the product launch, the definition of an entry-level or even mid-level corporate role is fundamentally challenged.
There is also the Jevons paradox to consider here.
Right.
When you make a resource highly efficient and cheaper to produce, demand for it actually increases. Studies are already indicating that rather than shortening the work week, AI might actually extend it. If your autonomous agents can produce 10 times the research output, the managerial expectation shifts.
Right.
You aren't working less. You are suddenly expected to oversee and validate a massively expanded volume of high-level output.
Yeah.
Our goal here isn't to forecast a utopian or dystopian outcome, but to impartially equip you with the precise architectural shifts happening under the hood so you can position your skills accordingly before May 1st.
Positioning yourself requires understanding that the core competency of the next decade isn't creating the work. It is orchestrating, auditing, and managing the AI systems that execute the work.
Before we wrap up today's analysis, we need to highlight our final sponsor, Old Glory.
Yes.
If you're looking for premium gear or you need the perfect gift for a highly analytical tech enthusiast who also happens to love music and sports, this is your primary destination.
Definitely.
Old Glory is an iconic fan merchandise store carrying an incredibly diverse and unique selection of apparel and accessories.
It really is the optimal platform for finding highly specific, culturally relevant merchandise. And as a listener, you have access to a dedicated discount. By utilizing the promo code SNARFUL at checkout, you'll receive 15% off your entire purchase. Just navigate over to oldglory.com and apply the promo code SNARFUL.
So connecting the dots on the intelligence we've processed today, the trajectory is absolute.
Yeah.
We analyzed a swarm of AI agents autonomously engineering a web browser over 168 hours. We examined AI logic engines breaking out of the cloud to drive physical ABB robotics on Foxconn factory floors.
Right.
And we detailed how Microsoft's Agent 365 is systematically absorbing the administrative and analytical workflows of the corporate desktop.
The unified thesis across all three data points is the transition from human in the loop to human on the loop.
Exactly.
We're no longer utilizing tools to augment our own execution. We're deploying autonomous systems that execute the friction-heavy tasks entirely on their own, whether that's in software architecture, physical manufacturing, or corporate strategy.
Which brings us to a final, provocative paradigm shift to consider as you navigate your systems today.
Okay.
If software is increasingly being engineered by AI agents, like the Cursor ecosystem, and software is primarily being utilized by AI agents, like Copilot Cowork, executing tasks via APIs in Microsoft 365, what is the future of human interface design?
That completely destabilizes our approach to UX.
It does.
We've spent the last 40 years optimizing graphical user interfaces, rendering buttons, menus, and visual hierarchies specifically for human retinal processing and physical dexterity.
But if the primary consumer of an application is an AI agent parsing JSON data through an API endpoint, the concept of a screen becomes an inefficient relic.
Right.
Are we rapidly approaching an infrastructure where humans are the minority users of the digital environments we created? It's a fundamental architectural question to consider the next time you open a dashboard.
It forces us to ask if the future of software design is entirely invisible to the human eye.
We're here to help at Snarful, so reach out on our website if you have any more questions.
That's a wrap on today's top stories. Remember, tech doesn't have to be complicated, and we're here to help connect the dots. If you've got questions or want to learn more, visit us at snarful.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.